Hi, it's Bonnie. I'm back with you, and I wanted to show you the finished product that we did from our last lesson with echo dyeing of cards, paper, and how to actually construct the cards. I thought it might be a good time to make some cards and send them out to people for some encouragement. And we're going to be using the things that we have around the house, so we can't really run out and buy a lot of stuff, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I use to make cards from scratch from things I've collected. I thought it would be best to take a look at these measurements. You can screen grab this and they'll help you with assembly. The card paper that we used was 6" by 9" paper. So when the cards are folded down, they're 6 inches by 4.5. That's this size. 6 inches by 4.5. Those size cards will fit in what's known as an A6 envelope. They look like these. And they fit in there nicely. So if you need to buy some envelopes, or if you have one envelope, you can take it apart, trace the outline, and fold and make your own. I have a few A6 envelopes on hand. The inserts that are going to go inside will measure 8.5 by 5.5. This 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, we've all got it in our copier machines. So I'm going to show you how you can use the simple copy paper to make your inserts for the inside. And there's also something that I call a small insert that I'll show you. So let's take a look at the types of card inserts. This is going to be a finished card. The front has a scripture on it that I gleaned from a magazine. I'm going to show you how to do that. And on the inside, this is my 8.5 by 5.5 piece of paper that has been stained with some Ranger Distress Oxide, and this is what I call my small insert for writing. Now the sky's the limit with how you do the inserts for cards. Some people like them stained like this. Some people like them, this is another card that is of a different style. It's a more modern style, again with ripping from magazines. This is coffee stained paper, but some people just like plain white paper for their inserts. So if you have a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper, if you divide that sheet in half horizontally and vertically, you'll end up with the ability, you can type this on the computer and print it out. And your information or your sentiment would be either on the right side when a person opens the card, or on the left side, and you'd have a space to write your own sentiment on the right. So I create a template like this, and when it's time to print it out, I print it out without the lines. So now if we fold this, fold it in half, and fold it in half again. It tells us exactly where we want to cut this. There's lots of ways to cut these. I'm going to show you some different ways to do that. But let's start with this one. Line it up. Make sure it's nice and straight. Give it a chop. So now this is an insert for one card. And this is an insert for the other card. If we take a card like this one, and this one, I don't like to throw anything away, even if it has a boo-boo in it or it's damaged. I'll figure out a way to use it in some way for perhaps a different project, or build that flaw into my design. This one has a little flaw on the bottom where the rubber band ripped it, so I may need to cover that up with some other things. But I show you how the inserts for your cards would be placed like that. And then another type of insert would be your sentiment here, and we give you space to write on the right. And it's just a matter of gluing them inside, which we'll get to. So, let's talk about how we can decorate the covers. I like to get magazines that come in the mail that may have pre-printed information already on them that I can use. You can certainly buy Tim Holtz pre-printed sentiments and put in your cards, and they're beautiful. But if you can't run out to the store quickly, here's a magazine that has a lot of scriptures in it. Here's a scripture you might want to put in a card. I don't have a fear of ripping magazines apart after you read them. I do have a big collection of magazines, and there are different types you can use. Here's another great magazine, American Artist. That would have a different look inside. Begin each day with a heart of thanks. So we use scissors to do this. And you could use your cutter, as I've shown you already. I find I have a little more control with something tiny when I use my hands. These are nice, big, bold, point size. You'll find that a lot of these, you might only need part of the sentence and not the entire sentence in order to say what you want to say on your card. So here we would have begin each day for the cover, and on the inside we would have that. And how do we cover up maybe this flaw that we have here in the card? A couple ways to do that. I have a box of bits of things that I like to use. This is just paper that has been gleaned from a book that is no longer being used. I also like the look of something being torn. So I'm going to need an area of about this big, and I'm just going to tear this. I like the torn look. Takes a little guiding. And another thing I've learned, I get these cheap rulers at the dollar store. They're $1. This side, I chew it up with a knife so that it's jagged. Hold it down, give it a rip, and it's a jagged edge. Generally, I put the larger part where I can hold it. Press down, give it a rip, and it's a jagged edge. But one way to lift each layer so that it becomes a little more distinct and defined is by using ink and these distressed oxides. Ranger makes a whole range of these, a lot of different colors. I like the darker colors for a more vintage edge. And this is the dabber that you use. From here, just kind of go through the edges and lightly dust them with some distress ink. I've learned that less can be best with this. That little bit just helps it lift off the page a little bit by adding kind of like a drop shadow. Another thing people like to use in card making, and again, the sky's the limit with card making. You can really do some beautiful things with embossing powders and with stamps, and I'll show you some of that. I'm just showing you how to use the stuff you've got around the house. So that might be our cover. Begin each day. We place it the way we would like it, and I like to have as much of my artwork to show as possible, not cover it up too much. And again, I've got a little bit down there that we're going to cover. I just use a glue stick. Pay attention to the thickness of papers, and you can arrange these any way you like. You can have it strategically, what we call flush right, or you can have it jagged, depends on what you like. I think a lot of times it depends on the background and how the typography plays well with the background. I don't really want to cover up this part of the mum because it's really the pretty part. So there's that. Now we'll take this torn paper with a brown edge, lay him in there so that he kind of covers up the area where that was. I'm going to take some of this Aleene's Tacky glue, and these are pressed flowers from my yard. This is a lilac from my lilac bush that I pressed. And I'm going to put some glue in here. And I like the curve of it. And I'm going to put the pressed flowers straight on there. Let's say we want to mount our sentiment on the inside. It's pretty easy to do. As I said before, you can go around the edges with your inking to create a lift. But if you don't like that look, if you really are used to and like the look of just white, it's a very easy thing to do. You make sure you fold it exactly in the center. Some people like to use a tape runner. I don't have any tape runners right now. All I have is my glue stick. So I'm going to run a little bit of my glue stick here on the spine. There's two different types of look. Make sure these match up really well. Nice and centered, both top and bottom, and within the frame. And I just glue down that strip. I'm not going to put this down, I'm not going to put that down. So that when a person opens the card, they see it this way. You might, if you would like to tack down maybe the edges here, you can tack that down. I don't like to, I like to let this float a little bit. And this is the area where you can write. Another thing you might like to do, a lot of people like to use stamps for the insides of their cards and even for the cover. I find that Archival ink is good, comes in lots of nice colors. Black or brown would work well with these cards, but we have black handy. We also use the distress oxide. So here's a sentiment. Live in the moment, make it beautiful so that it's worth remembering. So we can ink this up. Just right there in the center of our card. And that would work just as well. on the inside of one of these. So I hope you have enjoyed making cards from the eco-dyed watercolor paper. As much as I've enjoyed making this film for you, I invite you to certainly try the eco-dyeing on your own. Try making some cards on your own using scraps from magazines and stamps and whatever you'd like to use on your cards, and send them out and enjoy them. It's been my pleasure to make this video for you. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. You can subscribe, and any comments you leave for me below, I'd be happy to hear from you, your thoughts and ideas as well. Hope to see you next time. I think next time we're going to work on using some of this watercolor paper for jewelry. Bye.